I'm going to be doing a little bit of review and just kind of a summary of some of the observations that I made on a recent field excursion out to Shasta Lake, what I'm calling Askwa Creek. All right, so this is mostly going to be based on photos. So this is looking northeast up towards Shasta Lake, and the route that I was taking up to this area in the sort of on the west side of Shasta Dam, and it is in or near the Chappie off-road vehicle recreation area that's set up out there. All right, so a little bit of an overview map here. You see cities of Shasta Lake and Bella Vista shown. Shasta Lake, where it's shown on the map here, that's where the dam is. So I crossed the dam and headed out into this area where you'll see the boot sort of representing my destination. So lots of interesting geology out there. You can see some staining, looks like rust, probably some iron oxides, appears to be some well-weathered granite and quartz. As a matter of fact, you can see some fairly prominent quartz in this material. So this is kind of looking out across this canyon. And you can see how steep the topography is up here. Looks like might be a greenleaf manzanita there on the rocks. And again, this highly weathered material that's actually part of the eastern Klamath Terrane. So looking up the slope, you can see the nature of the vegetation up here. Some indication of fire, but not for some time. You can see some emergent pines, and a lot of the vegetation was actually killed out during the mining era. And this was just a kind of a little random outcrop, which I thought was kind of interesting. Obviously, broken shards from hundreds of containers, and soon came upon this tractor down the slope, all rusted out, and I don't know, 1940s or 50s maybe in terms of its vintage. There it is again. The road finally leveled out a little bit for a turnaround. So this area that I ended up camping was a black oak woodland. What you're looking at here, the broadleaf trees are black oak looking upslope across the way. There actually was some sugar pine in here. You can definitely see some of the trees across the way that are ponderosa pine, or maybe a little bit of Douglas fir in there. And you can start to see the indications of recent fire activity and or commercial timber harvesting. So there were some interesting artifacts that were out and around this particular site that I landed in. Sun going down over the ridgeline, the black oak. So sort of a maiden voyage for a new old truck that I'm driving. And got all excited about the Padres in the World Series, so I was dressed for the occasion. Okay, so this is kind of looking back down the canyon, and as you look across the canyon, you can see evidence of roads cut through. You can actually see some areas that significant exposed soil. You can see them extending actually up the ridgeline, and it was visible to see clear-cut timber harvests up in these upper parts of this this watershed. Obviously, much drier down below. Okay, so another view from the spot. This is looking down on the North Fork of Squaw Creek. You get a sense of the steepness of the topography here as it drops down precipitously hundreds of feet to the stream channel below. So yeah, getting cozy for the evening. Interesting old weathered piece of, it could have been mountain mahogany or chamise perhaps. Lots of interesting lichens on this really mature weathered rock. Brought my faithful dog Pudge along for the ride. The obligatory camp selfie. And get myself set up for camp. Built myself a little table here to hold my little Jetboil stove. Go Knights. Go Shasta College GIS Geography. And yeah, settling in for making a pot of chili. Playing a little of my ukulele. And listening to the sounds of the evening. Interestingly, as I sat in the camper shell looking over the map in the area that I had just come through, I traced my path along Shasta Dam, up and across around Dry Creek, and then we come up this way. Oh yeah, there's Dry Fork right there is what they call this little inlet, and then it heads up and around, and I hit here and checked out my map and saw a road, so I crossed and headed off this direction into some quite challenging and tricky, steep, narrow terrain as the road ascended and landed me at Uncle Sam Mine, not named after my son Sam. All right, so look at your position relative to Mammoth Butte. We'll come back there in a few minutes, and you can see what this road does. It goes all the way up to it's like copper mine up at the top. The next morning, I found this car, hoping I was not going to meet the same fate. Interestingly, I'm on foot right now, and they had closed off this road that descended back down to the creek channel below. It's more of this very weathered geology out there, random stones and rocks that really show the diversity of the geologic processes and time scales at work within this really complex and fascinating region of the Klamath Mountains, along with a couple of mine artifacts. So the next morning, there's that same spine I had encountered the day before. Again, you can see a little more clearly here some of the roads and other, those are largely part of the sort of the heart of the Chappie OHV recreation area, but you can also see timber harvesting and fire as evidence. Some nice quartz veins crossing in this outcrop. And I always have to take a few minutes to write in my field notebook, maybe read a nature writer. In this case, I was reading from Margot Curie, who wrote of her time in the Arctic. Took some field notes, meditated on the wilds and the nature of the world. All right, so the descent back out again. Geo Adventure Club, come on out. And again, here we are now. Now Shasta Lake has come back into view, and you can trace the route coming back out of here that I took coming in. And we came down to a drainage, actually some quite dramatic evidence of hydraulic mining. You can see the cut-through slopes from where the miners had washed these tracts of hillsides away. And again, more interesting geology. We have a native bigleaf maple or Acer macrophyllum, and also an introduced plant that came in with the miners, the fig, which can actually be invasive in some areas. Got some white alder in here as well, a native species common to areas with a little bit of water. See this old rusted out culvert. These infrastructure like this for road crossings are still something that's done to try to maintain roads, and also something that can lead to some major erosion problems related to roads. And the departure back out again. So again, just to give you a little summary here. So cross Shasta Dam over and across the dry creek, back around across Squaw Creek, and headed up into this drainage. And that zooms us out just a little bit, and we can see we headed up Squaw Creek, and we ended up along this eastern flank of the North Fork of Squaw Creek. It wasn't until later that I realized that if I panned myself out a little bit, that I was actually heading up towards the headwaters, which come off of Bohematosh Mountain, which was my original target destination before I got sidetracked up this drainage. And actually, if one crosses the divide to the west, you get into the system that drains into Clear Creek, which eventually is dammed at Whiskeytown. Let's take a quick moment and jump back over here to kind of show where that is. Yeah, we need one more map in there. So here we go, our site up here, and we cross the drainage, drop into Clear Creek, which then drops down into Whiskeytown. I hope that was informative and of interest.